Good morning. Happy Monday. Welcome to another class of our Leadership and Peer Support, the GPP3O. My name is Kobe Flatt, and we are starting our fourth week of our 9-week radio Zoom schedule. We have all of this week and next week. Then we get the week off for March break, leaving us with the remaining weeks, taking us to April 11th for the end of our Term 2A Radio Zoom timetable. We're just starting, we're getting into it. We are actually going to be halfway done our course by tomorrow. So it's exciting to see that we are well on track for getting through all of the course material before the end of term, which is again on April 11th. Reminder that if you are not finished all of the course curriculum key questions by April 11th, you still have the opportunity to be working on the material after and into the next term. It's just that come April 11th, we will be done the broadcasting of this course, as next term I'll be teaching grade 11 math. So you have time, there's no pressure. Again, the beautiful thing about adult education is you can work at your own pace. But for those who like the schedule and the routine, we are going to be focusing on moving through this course in 9 weeks. Today we are finishing up Unit 2 with Lesson 10. Now, I will be the first to admit that the timing of this wasn't my first option. Today's lesson is heavy. We are talking about healthy relationships. It's a hard topic for a lot of people at any time, let alone to be addressing on a Monday morning. Normally, when I would hand this course out at a previous educational institution where we were using an old curriculum, I would always give people a disclaimer when we got to this portion of the course. I rewrote this course with a lot of the old outdated things in mind, wanting to change, and considered how to approach this topic. I felt if I needed to give students a disclaimer, that was a red flag to me needing to change and address the material. However, after much consideration, I do feel that this is a very important topic. It's one that should be included in the course. And rather than throwing it at you saying, well, we just need to know it, I want to go through today's class with the implications it can have in mind and how we can work through that. So giving some strategies for progressing. You will notice when you turn to page 32 of your Unit 2 material, it starts with the disclaimer that this material contains content that may be triggering or distressing to some readers. A lot of this lesson is about abuse, and that is hard for a lot of people. We're going to go through it together, talking about resources that are available to you. So let's jump in with our learning goals for today. By the end of the class, we should be able to describe the characteristics of a positive and abusive relationship. You will be able to say that you can recognize early warning signs of an abusive relationship. Our success criteria that will measure we have understanding when we can say, I can describe the characteristics of different relationships and recognize the warning signs of abusive relationships. So before we jump in, I want to acknowledge the resources that have been listed in your course material. The first one that is there is Talk for Healing. Now, there is a phone number, there is a website. Sorry, I was going to say email address. Nope, it's a website where you can go to get help. I want to show you online how to find your local resources as well as what each of these resources has to offer. So we'll go to your search engine and we're going to type talk for healing. And you'll see the website there is the one that's listed in your course material. This one is in our course material because it's for Thunder Bay and surrounding area. It is an Anishinaabe Women's Circle home and family healing agency. They have a lot of different programs that are available to those in our area. You can see that it starts with there is life beyond violence. They have different brochures. They have healing. They have different substance abuse. They have family court support and breaking free from violence. There are a lot of resources that they have within their programs. I wanted to show that it has a crisis line right at the top and that you can use whatever means is best for you, whether it's a phone call, whether it's texting, or whether it's an online chat. Bintigan provides free support and services to ensure women and children have a safe environment to live in free from violence. They are confidential, they are safe, and they are supportive. There's the 1-888 line and their local Thunder Bay line. You can get help for yourself or for someone else. They have different programs that you can enroll in if you want to take a look at that, as well as all of the services that they provide. So I threw that one in to our course material to help with those who are in our larger area. The next one is the Canadian Mental Health Association, and it's also very broad in that they are pretty much everywhere. It is a large organization that has sites throughout the country. They are in Edmonton, British Columbia, Ontario. You can find the one closest to you. You can find one in your area. You can type in your community and have it search who is close to you and how that can best work for you. They have a crisis response line and a toll-free number, as well as the ability to text. You can go to their specific one that's in the area closest to you. You can find their Thunder Bay branch, for instance. You can look at their website for their specific hours and programs that are available locally. You can find help in, again, whichever situation you find yourself in. They have their crisis line. They have community mental health links. They have a crisis response service. There are COVID-19 resources still. You can browse the website if you have time. You can find info. You can find out what they do and how they can best help you. Those who are a little bit more local and in the area, we have the many resources offered by Sioux Lookout First Nations Health Authority. On the Salifna website, you can see the different services that they offer. If you need, depending on what you need, the resources that they have available. They have a crisis response program, which is Noden's crisis response program, and it provides support 24/7. All of the resources that are listed have 24/7. So it doesn't matter what time of day you can always reach out and get help. The SLIFNA website has business hours, but then they also have after hours. So it's good to know that there are different numbers for their supports as opposed to the Talk for Healing and Canadian Mental Health Association, where they have toll-free numbers that will then direct you, find out what it is that you need to the specific department that can help. Whereas with SLIFNA, because they do so much and they serve such a broad geographical region, that it's nice to know how to get to the department you want. But again, if you call any of those numbers, they can direct you as well. So don't get caught up on how do I do that. They're available to you. The last thing I want to show you is how to just search for local help. If you were to type in mental health resources, if you were to type in family supports, if you were to type in crisis response, how to get the help that you need. So there are a lot of resources available to you, and sometimes it can be hard to navigate who can help you where, when, and how. You'll notice when you type in mental health resources, depending on if your location services are on or not, you will get the ones that are close to you. You can go online to find the best support for you, and it's nice to know too that you can shop around. If you've tried one and it didn't necessarily work for you, there are other options available. I will say one of the nice things about COVID is that a lot more became available remotely, that we are getting better at using Zoom, for instance, so that you can connect with services that aren't close by. But also be mindful of what's in your community. A lot of the band offices will have notices of meetings and supports and resources available to you. Feel free to use those local supports. Find those leaders in your community who can help you advocate for the support that you need. And if you would rather something a little bit more private, you can go online and find those resources that are willing to reach your area. So the first one that comes up again is Noden Mental Health Services. There's also the Canadian Mental Health Association that we spoke about. If you go on ontario.ca or canada.ca, you can help to narrow it down more to what works for you and where you are. The Thunder Bay, our sort of most local branch for the Canadian Mental Health Association, has the crisis response service listed, but you'll notice when you go on their website, they also have a simple number that you can text. They cover such mental health resources as coping with loneliness, learning about mental health and mental illness. If you have feelings of anger, grief, if you need overdose prevention or post-traumatic stress disorder, they've got social supports, they've got different resources for coping with stress and dealing with teens and mental health, understanding substance use. Something as we often put off simple as work-life balance can get to be overwhelming, and it tells you right here you are not alone, that 58% of Canadians report overload associated with their many roles. So please don't feel like you're alone, don't feel like there's nowhere to turn to. You can get connected depending on what help it is that you're looking for. Dealing with topics such as the one that we're going to cover today, it is so important to have your support system in place. We've talked about it a few times over the last few lessons, how you want to surround yourself with trusted friends or family members who are looking out for your best interests and well-being. They can help with such topics as the one we're going to cover today, and how you can lean on them for support. And if it's overwhelming, and if you're not in a position to go online and find these supports, ask them to help and use them in the meantime. Because we're also looking at it from a peer support role, we're going to get into different warning signs today of how we can be that support system for somebody else, how we can become informed and knowledgeable and help others who might be in a situation where they don't know what to do or what their next steps could be. Let's jump into our course material. We're going to be talking about relationships. A positive relationship is a bond in which both parties are equal and honest with each other. This is essential to know how it can be and should be. A lot of times we don't know what we don't know. So we don't know what a healthy relationship could or should look like if we've never been surrounded by it. If we've never seen a role model to model what a healthy relationship can be, we think that this is the norm and it's okay that it's happening to us because that's how it goes. I want to lay the foundation for how it can look, for how it should look, that you can hold out and strive for a healthy relationship. It's important to note that a lot of our childhood follows us in almost everything we do, that we want to be mindful of certain aspects of our growth and how it affects decisions today. When forming and maintaining a relationship, it is vital to ensure that the relationship is a positive one. Whether it's with a friend or a significant other, the qualities needed to keep a relationship positive are the same. Now, a relationship, especially with someone close to you, can often start out as positive, but at times can become abusive. Being able to distinguish between a positive relationship and an abusive relationship, as well as being able to recognize when someone else is in an abusive relationship, are important social skills. When we talk positive relationships, there are several elements that form the basis of a positive relationship. To have a healthy relationship, two people must respect each other, trust each other, and share in the relationship. Sharing in the relationship, more specifically, means that two individuals have an equal amount of power and control, not one person telling the other what to do. So the basic characteristics of a positive relationship include respect, trust and support, honesty and accountability, and fairness. I'm not entirely sure how much truth it's based upon, but there's the old wives' tale that wedding cakes were 3 tiers for a reason. All wedding cakes, you got a 3-tiered cake, and it stood for respect, trust, and love. We've definitely moved away from that tradition and have lost some of what it is, but there is definitely truth to needing these and more. We've now talking about honesty and accountability and fairness in order to be in a positive relationship. Looking specifically at respect, one of the key ingredients to a positive relationship is respect. Now, respect does not simply mean being polite or courteous to another person. It's deeper than that. It involves a lot more than that. Being respectful includes listening to the other person in a relationship and valuing their opinions and point of view. It involves being non-judgmental and understanding of the other person. Respect is a basic element for the other individual in a relationship. So the example that's listed in your coursework are two friends. Billy and Jason, they've been friends for a long time. Even though Jason is 2 years older and a lot bigger than Billy, he never pushes him around. Instead, Jason always listens to what Billy has to say and respects his opinion. So it's not taking advantage of someone because you're bigger, you're older, you're stronger, you're smarter. It's a mutual understanding. You have respect for the other person's opinions and thoughts. Next, we're going to look at trust and support. In a relationship, trust and support means allowing the other person their freedom and helping them to attain their goal. It's not all about you. It's not a self centered mentality of what's going to be best for me, how do I use people to move ahead, how do I get what I want. It's about mutual trust and support for one another. You're trusting a person with their freedom in a relationship, which leaves room for that individual's feelings, opinions, their friends, their activities, and their interests. In a healthy, positive relationship with trust and support, both people should always feel comfortable expressing themselves and engaging in their favorite activities. The example listed is of Joe and Marissa. They've been dating for about 10 months, and Joe is going on a student exchange to a different country for a few months to learn a new language. It's going to be the first time that they've been apart since they started dating. Marissa's obviously worried. She's going to miss Joe, but she's not against Joe going away for such a long time because she trusts him and wants to support his efforts to learn a new language. She's not thinking about herself and maybe how much work she's going to have to do now that he's gone and taking care of their place or their pet or their children. It doesn't tell us that much information about them, but thinking of the broader example, it's not about how lonely she'll be and who's going to help with the dishes and the cooking, but instead is supporting him in his growth and want for learning a new language. So we need to keep that in mind when we talk trust and support. Next, we're looking at honesty and accountability, where in a relationship it's the same as it would be in any other situation in life. A positive relationship includes telling the truth to the other person. It includes being able to admit mistakes and accept responsibility for one's actions. We've talked about this as a leader in the workplace or in an organization, that we each have rights and responsibilities. And a part of the responsibilities are taking ownership and accountability when we are wrong. It's about taking responsibility, accepting responsibility when things go bad, but also when they don't work out the way we want them to. The example in our book is about two friends, Susan and Jennifer, who became friends after being put in the same class on the very first day of high school. Unfortunately, after an argument with Susan, Jennifer began to spread rumors in school about her friend. They were hurtful, and the next week, Susan and Jennifer resolved their argument. Jennifer decided to be honest to Susan and took accountability for spreading the rumors. We want to always aim to make the right decision. We always want to strive for that integrity, that honesty, that professionalism, depending on the situation that we're in, but recognizing that when mistakes happen, we own up to them. That brings us to our last characteristic of negotiation and fairness. That in a positive relationship, there are ways to resolve disputes in a fair way. It allows for the people in the relationship to be able to compromise, accept change, and seek solutions to the conflict that both sides can accept. It's not always one giving in and needing to give up and compromise, but both sides have a little give and take. Our example continues with the friends Susan and Jennifer, who got into the argument where Jennifer spread the rumors about Susan. After the argument, we see that Jennifer was honest and took accountability. Jennifer admitted to Susan that it was her who spread the rumors. Now, Susan negotiated with Jennifer that they would remain friends, but Jennifer had to admit to everyone that the rumors were not true. Both girls decided this was fair, and they came to a reasonable solution where both accepted change and found a solution. Remember that showing respect, giving trust and support, being honest and accountable, and negotiating and being fair is not one-sided. Both people in a relationship have to show all of these characteristics in order for the relationship to be a positive one. It cannot remain positive if only one person is contributing to it, if only one person is compromising, if only one person is being honest. We're going to look at how it can grow into an abusive relationship when always one side is giving. So this is where our material gets a little bit deeper and can be triggering. There are the resources listed at the beginning of our lesson for anybody who feels like they are being triggered and trauma is being brought up, that I ask you don't push it aside, that you find ways to help address these feelings and seek help if need be. In any relationship, it is important to be aware of the signs of an abusive relationship, how to distinguish an abusive relationship from a positive one. Contrary to what you may have previously thought, an abusive relationship does not necessarily have to involve physical violence, although it can. There are other types of abuse that a person can be subjected to, although they are often more difficult to recognize. The spectrum of abuse of a person can suffer in an abusive relationship includes verbal abuse, emotional abuse, financial abuse, physical abuse, and sexual abuse. It's important to note that most abusive relationships are progressive. That means that they get worse over time and not better. Usually, an abusive relationship begins with verbal and emotional abuse, and then it can develop into financial, physical, or sexual. The root of most abuse in relationship is due to feelings of inadequacy on the part of the abuser, often due to being the victim of abuse themselves. Again, it is a vicious cycle. They think that this is how it's supposed to be because it's all that they've known. And unless the cycle is broken, it will continue. Abusers are for the most part very controlling and needy. The level of abuse often goes up when they feel that their needs are not being met, when they are experiencing times of stress, or when they feel that the relationship is in jeopardy. We're going to take a look at each of the types of abuse, what it consists of, and how to recognize the warning signs so you can get help. The first type of abuse is verbal abuse. It's the earliest sign of an abusive relationship and often progresses to include other forms of abuse over time. Verbal abuse begins with name-calling, criticism, or ridicule, where one person is making fun of the other. It can also include making threats against another person, against their friends, against their property, or threatening suicide. It is also verbal abuse if one person in the relationship intimidates the other by creating fear or using their expression or tone of voice or hand gestures. You want to be able to recognize the characteristics to help you recognize the warning signs. The warning signs of verbal abuse can include ridicule, threats, and intimidation. It is good to be mindful of this and to know that it's often the gateway to other forms so that you can nip it in the bud before it gets any further. You want to recognize the reality of how letting it slide can lead to something more threatening and harmful, and not playing it off as, oh, they're just stressed, it's okay. Yes, they probably are stressed, but there are better strategies for coping with it. We're going to get into these strategies throughout the course. We're going to learn about anger management and stress management and how we have these feelings. All of us get moments of anger and stress, but we need to learn how to deal with it accordingly and properly so that we don't become abusive. The next type is emotional abuse. Emotional abuse is where the victim is often left with a shattered sense of self esteem, which can take years to overcome. Like any other form of abuse, it is based on power and control. Emotional abuse is often characterized by extreme jealousy. The abuser is usually very reluctant to allow the other person in the relationship to have any privacy or time away. Often, emotional abuse extends such that the partner in the relationship is isolated by being restricted from seeing their friends or family, from going to work or going to school, or being allowed to freely come and go. The abuser insists on being dominant, having all the power in the relationship, making all the decisions, and generally being the boss. Emotional abuse is repetitive and sustained. Like other forms, when not stopped, it does not get better over time. It only gets worse. So, again, knowing the characteristics and the warning signs can help you to stop it early as opposed to playing it off and saying this is a one time thing. You want to use your judgment on getting help before it's too late. The warning signs for emotional abuse include jealousy, isolation, domination, degrading, and rejection. The next one is financial abuse. Financial abuse occurs when one person in the relationship controls the other person's money or property against their will. Now, this one is sometimes hard because at first you think, well, I'm giving them permission. They might be better at it, they might know more. I do have a tendency to overspend, so giving them control is something that I've allowed. But you want to be mindful that it doesn't grow into anything more. Financial abuse typically involves one partner in a relationship controlling all the money, sometimes concealing their own money or the shared money, not being transparent and honest about the spending of finances and how much is coming in. In a situation of financial abuse, one partner is often kept poor. They are not allowed to spend the money, whereas the other one has all the spending power. Warning signs of financial abuse include an individual controlling money, concealing money, or spending all the money. If it gets to the point where there's a lot of money being spent and when you ask for it there's none, that's a red flag, and you want to be mindful of how this is abuse. Sometimes we don't seek help because we're afraid we can't prove it or it might not actually be. You want to be informed and knowledgeable, and you want to be watching for the warning signs so that you can stop it before it grows. The last one that we're going to talk about is often the hardest one, and it is sexual abuse. When one person forces another to perform sexual acts that they do not want. It can include rape or physical attacks of the sexual parts of another's body. This constitutes sexual abuse, and it is illegal. It is a serious offense which carries several criminal penalties. This one is sometimes easier to identify, but not as easy to see. So it's hard because a lot of people know that it's wrong, but again, they try to hide it. We talk a little bit about how victims feel shame, embarrassment, and they don't want to seek help. Even though they know it's wrong, they sometimes don't know where to turn. And this is where it's good to be able to use your resources. Feel free to go online and find resources so that you're removed from those in your community if that's what you're afraid of. If you're in a small community, small town, it can be hard to admit because you don't want to be labeled. So use the resources available to you so that you can get the help that you need. The presence of any of the characteristics described previously can indicate an abusive relationship. but there are warning signs that we can be mindful of. All forms of abuse often accompany each other, but can also occur on their own. You want to be able to spot the warning signs so you can help yourself or others. First, we're going to talk about how we can notice it in our own relationships. Knowing and being able to spot the warning signs of an abusive relationship can help you or someone you know to get help in time. In our own relationships, we want to recognize that relationships can go on to become abusive ones, that when they do, they are often characterized by at least one partner being extremely jealous or possessive. This is a huge red flag. If there is one partner who constantly keeps track of the other partner's time, where are you going? What did you do after work or after school? How come it took you this long to get home? Who were you with? These are indicators of someone who's being extremely jealous or possessive and could become abusive. If there's one partner accusing the other of being unfaithful or flirting, you want to make sure that it doesn't grow into the extreme jealousy, which can lead to abuse. If one partner is constantly criticizing or belittling the other partner, it's a red flag. We don't want to think that it's normal and it's something that's just how they are, that's just what they're used to, and it's okay, I don't mind it, I'm strong, I can take it. That doesn't make it okay. If one partner is making jokes that shame, humiliate, demean, or embarrass the other partner, it's not okay. You don't have to take it. Jokes are supposed to be funny, and funny for everyone, not just the one making the joke. It's not a joke then. If it is to cause shame, humiliation, if it's meant to demean or embarrass the other partner. It's important to note these feelings because these are red flags. If you feel any of these emotions in a relationship, you want to consider looking for warning signs, other warning signs, because this is a warning sign. It's important to note too, as we get into the next page where we talk about seeing warning signs in others, that these feelings are very real. So often people don't admit that they are in an abusive relationship or need help because they have feelings of shame, humiliation, embarrassment, etc. In our own relationships, we're looking to see if one demands that the other partner cut off their... Oh, I went too far. Sorry, I missed one. If they destroy or take the other partner's personal or sentimental possessions. If we're having a fight and they specifically go for something that means a lot to you, then it's a direct attack. It's meant to be hurtful. They know better. You want to be careful that it's not something that gets repeated because it is malicious. Another one here now is demanding the other partner cuts off their social contacts. This is where the support system is huge. You need a support system to be looking out for you. You need a support system who is willing to tell you the truth and have your well-being and best interests at heart. If you are feeling isolated, like you're not allowed to go see, you're not allowed to call, if you are being cut off, then it's a red flag. But a lot of times, it's not so much the abuser starting, they start to say, you can't go out, what about me? But a lot of times now from the other side, which we'll look at it in a little bit, but I want to note here, is they withdraw because of their feelings of shame, embarrassment, etc. It often starts with the abuser isolating them, and then sometimes there's a feeling of, I've waited too late, they won't understand, they'll never accept me back. You need to be aware of it from both sides. That if you are the victim in the relationship who's being told to cut off your social contacts, you need to be mindful that that is a form of abuse. Similarly, if you're in a relationship where one partner loses their temper quickly, yes, we have moments when we can all snap. Yes, we have moments of high stress. But again, how often does it happen? What is the anger being directed at, or who is it being directed at? Is it most misplaced? Most likely. And how we need to be mindful of how it can escalate. When one becomes enraged, when they feel hurt, shame, fear, or loss of control. So we're talking now about the stem of the emotion, the reason behind. If it is because of any of these feelings, you need to be mindful that it's not your fault. It is a them problem, and you need to get help. If one partner claims the other partner is responsible for their emotional state, we are all in control of our own emotions. How we deal with it is up to us, not somebody else. Again, we'll expand on this, on how we can positively and healthily deal with emotions. But if it's one person claiming that somebody else is responsible, that's a red flag. If somebody has a history of bad relationships, it's not a deal breaker. I don't want to say that you should avoid anyone who's been in multiple bad relationships, but you want to be mindful of, is there a reason why they have a history of bad relationships? Relying on your support system for many things is important. And if you believe them or trust them to help you through one situation, why wouldn't you consider their warnings about an individual that you are entering into a relationship with? You want to be careful of that. Watch to see if they're very bossy or demanding, if they're controlling finances and forcing another partner to account for what they spend, but they don't have to. Substance abuse is a huge warning sign that can lead to multiple types of abuse that we've discussed. Lastly, if one pressures the other partner sexually, then you know it's a slippery slope, and it's often a precursor to sexual abuse. So if one or both partners in a relationship display one or more of the warning signs, it indicates that there is an increased risk of the relationship becoming abusive. That's not to say that they are an abuser and you will enter into an abusive relationship. It's just things to be mindful of. It's a red flag that needs to be addressed before you proceed. So these warning signs are indicators that there is an increased risk of the relationship becoming abusive. We don't have much time left, so I'm not going to go through the positive and abusive relationship comparison chart, but you can see it there on page 38 of your Unit 2 material. It gives you a good understanding of what a positive relationship should look like. There are many individuals who have been caught in the cycle of abuse and don't know how it could be or should be. So taking time to read the positive relationship column can help you have a better understanding. If you're used to one partner making all the decisions and controlling everything without listening to the other's input, look at the positive relationship and see that in a positive relationship, both partners discuss things. They allow for differences of opinion, and they will compromise equally when needed to do so. Familiarize yourself with how a positive, healthy relationship can look so you know what you can strive for and fight for. We're going to finish off with the warning signs in a friend or family or loved one. You know how to recognize the signs of a relationship being either abusive or showing those warning signs that it could evolve in that direction. But what of the relationships of our loved ones? People are typically secretive of their relationships. They often are driven by shame, fear, or hopes that the relationship will improve with time. But as we've noted, a lot of these signs don't get better over time. Instead, they get worse and they can grow and evolve. So it's really hard to spot the warning signs in someone else's relationship because they will try to hide it for different reasons that we've mentioned. You want to, without being too invasive, you want to mainly be a support system. Don't give up on them. Look for unexplained bruises, marks, sprains, or other injuries. If they are becoming more frequent and hard to explain, that's a red flag. If they start to withdraw from friends and family, you need to be persistent and remind them that you are there for them. You are not going to judge. You are simply a safe space who can help get them help if needed. If there's a lot of secrecy, if there's excessive guilt or shame, you want to be aware that this could be a sign of an abusive relationship. Much like withdrawing from friends and family, if they start to avoid school or social activities, you might want to ask yourself, why? Is it happening more and more? Can you see controlling behaviors in the other partner? You want to be on the lookout because sometimes they can't ask for help themselves for whatever reason. When somebody close to you is in an abusive relationship, they need your help and your support. Often in the beginning stages, they just need support. It can take time for them to admit that they need help, and it can take time for them to be accepting of help. But don't give up on them. Be supportive and present. Remember that abusive relationships are based on power and control. The abused party, because of this, endures lowered confidence, lowered self-esteem. They often feel guilt, like it's their fault. They deserved it. They don't deserve any better. This is how they should be treated. These are signs of someone being abused. They desperately need someone to hear them and believe them. And like I said at the beginning, they might not be aware that they need help themselves. We want to become informed and knowledgeable, but that doesn't mean that everybody around us is. So we want to stand up for and support. Abuse is never deserved. We need to help victims of abuse understand that it is not their fault, that they are not bad people. They deserve and have a right to be happy, to be in a fulfilling relationship. When encountering someone who suffers from abuse, one must offer patience, love, and understanding. It takes a lot of courage to admit to being in an abusive relationship. When someone admits to being in an abusive relationship, they take a significant risk in sharing it. They need to know that they have full support and someone who will listen without judging. We want to help, to encourage, and to seek help from somebody who is more qualified than we are if it gets to that point. I know it was a lot. I know it was heavy. Thank you for working through the lesson with me. Please reach out and get supports that you need if any of this rang a bell. The key question is to think of other people. You're going to be asked to identify abusive relationships, to analyze other relationships. You don't ever have to give any names. You can use fake personalities from TV shows, movies, etc. But we want to know that you can identify and recognize the signs. So keep that in mind when you do the key questions. Doesn't have to be about you. You are not asked to share anything personal, but we want to be sure that you know how to identify. Tomorrow we're going to go over Unit 2 as a whole. We're going to do a review and then jump into Unit 3. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. All the best.